Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are looking at a race that completely redefined our expectations of human speed. I mean, watching Shrika Jackson's 200-meter final is basically like watching the very limits of human potential being redrawn in real time. We're going to break down exactly how she executed an absolute masterpiece on the track, the frankly incredible field of competitors she had to conquer to pull it off, and, what all of this means for the future of sprinting. So let's start with the anchor point of this whole story. 21.41 seconds. When Shrika Jackson crossed the finish line in Budapest, the clock stopped at 21.41, officially making it the second fastest time ever run in the history of the women's 200 meters. And what makes this so spectacularly impressive is that she delivered this under the immense, crushing pressure of a world championship final. She executed her race with this just relentless pace, running right out of the middle of the track, and put her chief competition completely in the rearview mirror. To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of this victory, you have to remember what the commentators pointed out. 0.4 of a second in sprinting is a mile. Seriously, in a sport that is routinely decided by the tiniest fractions of a second, a 0.4-second gap is an absolute blowout. Gabby Thomas, who took silver, literally crossed the line with her mouth wide open in pure disbelief. Sha'Carri Richardson, the newly crowned 100-meter champion, hung on for bronze, but neither of them was even in the same zip code as Jackson. We all thought it might be a tight race, but instead, Jackson won by a mile. To put those raw numbers into perspective, a 0.40-second margin of victory just doesn't happen very often. In fact, it ranks right up there with the most historic blowouts in world championship history. We're talking about legendary runs like Allyson Felix winning by 0.53 seconds in Osaka back in 2007, or Inger Miller's massive 0.45-second win in Seville. Jackson didn't just win this race, she completely separated herself from the rest of the world. If we rewind back to the starting blocks, you can really feel the stakes. The whole complexion of this race was heavily influenced by the lane draw. It was a fantastic contrast. Out in lane 9, you had Sha'Carri Richardson. Now, lane 9 is one you can kind of treasure because it lets you run your own race. But the catch is, you are totally blind to the runners inside of you. Meanwhile, Shrika Jackson was perfectly positioned in lane 6. From there, she could see absolutely everybody in front of her. She had a very clear target and a deep, deep hunger for revenge against the woman out in lane 9. And let's be clear, this was definitely not an easy field. It was insanely stocked. Jackson was up against Gabby Thomas, who came in as a co-favorite with the fastest time of the year. And crucially, she had fresh legs because she opted out of the 100 meters. Then you've got Julian Alfred, the incredibly dangerous NCAA champion. Down in lane 2 was Marie-Josée Talu, a legend with over a decade of dominance. Plus, the British powerhouse duo of Dina Asher-Smith and Daryl Nita. Literally every single athlete lining up was a legitimate threat, which just makes Jackson's blowout win even more staggering. But the thing that elevates this triumph into a true masterpiece is the intense heartbreak that fueled it just days before. During the 100-meter final, Jackson honestly thought for a second she'd won the world title, but she was totally stunned when Sha'Carri Richardson snatched the gold. She finished in that deeply frustrating spot, just missing the ultimate win. But you know what? That disappointment became her rocket fuel. She had a couple of days to let it soak in, get mad, refocus, and reset. When she stepped back out for the 200 meters, she was a woman on an absolute mission. To really understand how she executed this race with such flawless precision, we need to take a quick look at her unique background. Shrika Jackson actually didn't start her career as a pure short sprinter. Almost nobody saw this level of 200-meter dominance coming because she originally made her name as a 400-meter runner. And believe it or not, that specific background is exactly what makes her so lethal in the half-lap event today. Coming from the 400 meters gave her a massive physical advantage, known in the track world as stepping down. It's a strategic move, very similar to what Fred Kerley did on the men's side, moving from the 400 down to the 100 and 200. What this does is it builds an unparalleled reservoir of strength for that final stretch. So right when the rest of the sprinters are hitting a wall and fading in the last 50 meters, Jackson is tapping into that 400-meter endurance. It is the exact reason why she is, without a doubt, the strongest finisher in the sport right now. Because of that unbelievable kick, she crossed the line with a time that leaves us looking at one tiny decimal, 0.07 seconds. After entirely dominating the field, 0.07 of a second was the only gap remaining between Jackson and the ultimate holy grail of track, the legendary world record set by Florence Griffith-Joyner FloJo herself, 0.07 of a second. She left everyone on their feet, proving she was in top-notch form, but just agonizingly missing out on the fastest time ever recorded in human history. When you map this out, it shows just how close we are to making history. For decades, touching Flojo's 1988 record seemed literally impossible. We waited over 30 long years, until 2021, when Jamaica's Elaine Thompson clocked a 21.55, which was the closest anyone had gotten. But then, Shericka Jackson stepped in, dropping consistently fast times and just shattered all our modern expectations with her 21.41 in 2023. She has closed the gap in a way nobody thought possible. So what's it going to take for her to finally break the record? Well, it comes down to a very specific formula converging on a single night. First off, she obviously needs to be in absolute top-notch physical shape. Second, her technique has to be entirely flawless from the gun to the tape. But the third ingredient is the wild card she can't control, the wind. During her spectacular 21.41 run, there was absolutely zero wind to assist her. Experts point out that to get into the 21.3 or 21.2 range, she likely needs a positive wind reading of somewhere between plus 0.5 to plus 1.0. If she had just a breeze in Budapest, we might have seen the record fall that very night. And Jackson is definitely no longer hiding her ambitions. Now around 28 years old and with tons of deep experience under her belt, she has boldly and publicly stated, "I want the world record." She's not scared to say it out loud anymore. She knows she has the potential, she has the right mindset, and she absolutely has the raw speed. However, looking at her current season, we do have to be realistic about the hurdles in front of her. Going for the world record this year might seem a bit tough to some because she's actively battling back from a recent injury. Early on this season, she raced over 300 and 200 meters and actually took a loss to Julian Alfred. But hey, it's still early days. She has a critical 4-month window stretching from May through September to get back into top-notch shape and peak at the exact right millisecond. Which brings us to the ultimate question as we wrap this explainer up. Will Shericka Jackson finally shatter the 200-meter world record this season? We already know she has the arsenal, the deep endurance from her 400-meter days, the raw sprinting speed, and the flawless technique. Usain Bolt holds both the men's 100 and 200-meter records, and the entire world is just waiting to see if a Jamaican woman can finally claim this legendary 200-meter crown. It all hinges on her health, her peaking schedule, and just a little bit of help from the wind. So, what do you think? Is this the season she finally catches Flojo, or are we going to be waiting another year? Keep your eyes on the clock.